Good morning, everyone. Here's your Mormon news update for October 10th, 2024. First off today, we will go to the Deseret News for an article that says, the Trump campaign launched its Latter-day Saints for Trump coalition Tuesday evening. The coalition, which is not affiliated with or endorsed by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, includes top political leaders from Arizona, Idaho, and Utah who seek to uphold cherished principles of faith, family, and religious liberty, an official release said. The Latter-day Saints for Trump coalition has been in the works for weeks. In September, Trump visited Salt Lake City for a fundraiser where he tasked local individuals, including Marlon Bateman, a former U.S. State Department official, with forming a coalition. 2 weeks ago, Trump hosted Bateman and others at his Mar-a-Lago residence to strategize about Latter-day Saint outreach. Last weekend, between sessions of the church's General Conference, Donald Trump Jr. met with political leaders in Utah to further discuss the rollout. The Trump Group's website features a mission statement which says the coalition seeks to unite Latter-day Saints in preserving the moral and ethical values that strengthen families and communities. Grounded in the teachings of the family, a proclamation to the world which emphasizes the sacred nature of family as the fundamental unit of society, this coalition stands firm in its mission to promote policies that safeguard these values. Through faith, service, and resilience, we stand together to defend the freedoms that allow religious communities to thrive and ensure a brighter future for all. Members of the coalition include Senator Mike Lee, a Republican from Utah, Representative Andy Biggs, a Republican from Arizona, Representative Celeste Malloy, a Republican from Utah, Representative Burgess Owens, a Republican from Utah, Utah Attorney General Sean Reyes, and Idaho Attorney General Raul Labrador. As Latter-day Saints, we know that freedom and the family are central to God's plan, Lee said. President Trump has consistently stood by our side in defending both, ensuring that Latter-day Saints and people of all faiths can worship freely and live according to our beliefs. Other members of the coalition include radio show host Glenn Beck, the Diesel brothers David Sparks and David Kiley, Kelly Barnett and Darren Hoover, the Utah Gold Star parents of USMC Staff Sergeant Darren T. Hoover, Pinal County, Arizona Sheriff Mark Lamb, Tina Deskovich, co-founder of Moms for Liberty, Doug Quezada, Executive Vice President of Omnis Energy, Kimberly Fletcher, President and founder of Moms for America, Utah State Representative Carrie Ann Lisenby, Utah State Representative Kira Birkland, Utah Representative Melissa Garth Ballard, and former U.S. Representative Chris Stewart, a Republican from Utah. Trump's campaign has spent weeks preparing to begin outreach to Latter-day Saint voters in Arizona and Nevada, two battleground states with significant Latter-day Saint populations, but the formal launch scheduled for this week was muddled when a draft version of the LDS.DonaldJTrump.com website prematurely went live Tuesday afternoon. The website, accessible by Google search, featured an image of Trump alongside President Russell M. Nelson and President Henry B. Eyring of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The image was taken during Trump's 2017 visit to Welfare Square in Salt Lake City. The Trump campaign's outreach efforts are unaffiliated with the Church of Jesus Christ and its leaders, and the church remains neutral in partisan political matters. On Tuesday, the church released an official statement reiterating it does not endorse, promote, or oppose political parties and their platforms or candidates for political office. The church requests that candidates for office not imply that their candidacies or platforms are endorsed by the church. I read that statement in my update yesterday. The Trump campaign's draft website was quickly made private, and the image was removed out of an abundance of caution, Trump spokesperson Caroline Leavitt said after the Deseret News asked whether they had permission to use the photograph. When the website relaunched Tuesday evening, the photograph had been removed. Next, let's listen to Geoff Openshaw, first counselor in a bishopric, talk about how much the church is shrinking in his area.
You need to get yourself some really good young men's advisors.
See, that is the thing, but it could be a challenge. Like, our ward has shrunk substantially. I know you're out there in Intermountain Westland where
very true.
You're all out of touch with what's going on with the rest of us out there.
It's very true. I'm not gonna lie.
So that was an interesting kind of an artifact of COVID. Not completely. I mean, during COVID, some people started moving away just because some people moved, some people could telework. And we haven't had a lot of people move back in, probably because you can telework now. Like, I mean, I live outside of DC. Yeah. We used to get lots of people with either federal or military jobs and things like that. And they'd come and move into our ward. And I have to imagine lots of those are remote optional now. Yeah. And so why move, right? And it's not just our ward, it's kind of our general area. You've seen the wards have gone down a lot. We used to probably average pre-COVID 240 people in sacrament meeting. And now we're like 115 on a good Sunday. And so you mentioned getting advisors.
You're not going to get advisors if you only get at 1:15 on Sunday.
It's been a major challenge, and it's like we're acutely aware of it, and it's hard because we just feel like we don't have the personnel completely to do it, and we're trying to. It's kind of our challenge, figure out what to do on that front. So I'm not trying to whine about bishopric stuff or anything, air dirty laundry or anything like that, but it's an interesting challenge right now. Try to figure out how to staff your ward in an effective way to still meet the needs of the members of the ward who are accustomed to a certain level of performance of the ward, while the ward is like the same size as wards I had on my mission in Europe, which wards were always, and they've changed you probably talked about this in the past year, how they adjusted the threshold, to organize wards and stakes. It used to be a different standard for North America. You had to have more members to do it in the US and Canada compared to elsewhere in the world. And now they brought that down to make it a global standard. So it's the same everywhere, which on paper is great, but it means you can organize wards now with like 100 odd people, which you couldn't do before in the States. Yeah. But then you're still trying to get all the callings filled. And
exactly.
Can't.
No, it's hard. If you are outside the Mormon belt, which of course is, Idaho, Utah, Arizona.
Hell on earth.
We got lots of hell on earth. We got lots of momans here that we can do stuff with. So
does the church seem to be shrinking in your area as well? I'd love to hear about it. Now let's go back to the Deseret News for an article that says, on a recent September afternoon inside a vaulted ceiling chapel at Harvard Divinity School, a group of professors and students joined together in an unusual sing-along. They belted out popcorn popping on the apricot tree and motioned explosions with their hands. Some attendees exchanged glances of amusement and confusion, but to one group in the room, the song and the hand movements were second nature. They grew up with them as members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This Wednesday noon service, a weekly worship gathering hosted by different religious communities at the Divinity School, was organized by Latter-day Saint students who decided to structure their service after a typical children's or primary class. We wanted to invite people to experience what it means to be part of the Latter-day Saint culture, said Madison Tenney, a master's candidate in Latter-day Saint. We wanted to create an accessible service where everyone could participate. For me, this highlighted how Mormons tend to stay very naive and childlike. It's no wonder that the other students at Harvard Divinity School were looking around confused. While Latter-day Saints have long been a large and well-known contingent at Harvard Business School, with famous graduates like Utah Senator Mitt Romney and the late Clayton Christensen, their presence at the Ivy League Divinity School wasn't always so prominent. But this year, the group of 10 Latter-day Saint students is larger than it's ever been. Last year, Brigham Young University was one of the top 2 schools in terms of sending students to Harvard Divinity. This year, BYU is the most represented. So why are Latter-day Saints suddenly coming to Harvard Divinity School in greater numbers? Harvard Divinity School's multi-religious approach distinguishes it from other divinity schools in the U.S., fostering a broad and inclusive exploration of diverse religious traditions. There are over 350 students at the Divinity School, a number that includes both master's and doctoral students who represent 46 religious traditions and non-religious students too. It's probably the only place in the world where you can walk into a building and see a Buddhist monk, a Hindu priest, an Episcopalian minister, and a Catholic scholar sitting at the same table and chatting about TikTok or current events, said Tenney, who came to Harvard to study what it means to be a queer person of faith. This pluralistic model is especially well suited to be welcoming to Latter-day Saints, said Kyle Bellinger, another Latter-day Saint student at Harvard. When I came here, there was such an emphasis on situating yourself in your roots and also in the lived and applied dimensions of theology and in bridging the gap between scholar and practitioner, said Bellinger, who studies theology and religious thought. Along with Tenney, he's been spearheading a recruitment effort to bring more Latter-day Saints to the Divinity School. They have been reaching out to universities in Utah, hosting Zoom information sessions for students interested in applying and helping them with applications. At the Divinity School, a Latter-day Saint student group meets for weekly gatherings that are open to everyone. They all take a course in Latter-day Saint Mormon studies taught by David Holland, a professor of American religion and an associate dean at Harvard Divinity School, who is a Latter-day Saint and the son of President Jeffrey R. Holland, acting president of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles. The history of Latter-day Saints studying religion at prestigious institutions can be traced to the 1930s, when the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints sent a group of scholars to study theology and biblical studies at the University of Chicago Divinity School. The hope was to train religious educators who would serve in the church's seminaries and institutes of religion. As a result of what's known as the Chicago experiment, some students became enamored with the elite academic environment, while others came to strongly oppose the modernist teachings. For instance, T. Edgar Lyon, one of the students, wrote, "All religion is taught as a product byproduct of social growth and development, and anything supernatural is looked upon as merely a betrayal of one's own ignorance and primitive mind. The tensions that emerged between more orthodox and liberal-minded students raised questions about whether elite educational training could be compatible with a fervent faith. Amid these tensions, J. Reuben Clark, then a member of the church's First Presidency, gave a speech in 1938 titled The Chartered Course of the Church in Education, which became a blueprint for church educators emphasizing the need for a firm commitment to teaching core Latter-day Saint doctrine. Philip Barlow, who entered Harvard Divinity School in 1977, recalled an open and warm environment, even though some then viewed the Latter-day Saints as quaint and eccentric. In 1988, Barlow graduated from Harvard Divinity School with a doctorate, becoming the first Latter-day Saint to receive one from the school. At the recent noon service at Harvard, Tenney read one of the Articles of Faith, a set of core tenets of Latter-day Saint belief. God will yet reveal many great and important things, she read. Thomas McConkie, a Harvard Divinity Master's student and a Latter-day Saint, led the group in a short meditation. Bellinger gave a sermon quoting William James and reflecting on what the Book of Mormon reveals about knowing Jesus Christ flesh to flesh. There is often skepticism about the intellectual rigor and value of religious studies at Harvard, said Terry Williams, but he sees the school's distinctive approach as a strength. I like the way that the Divinity School complicates a flatland understanding of scholarship, he said. People are confessional here. They have faith in what they study, and that used to be an anathema in academia, but it's actually just human. Everybody has faith in something. Now let's look at this fun Facebook post where the person said, I went to a local distillery with a live band. They brought our tab in a Book of Mormon. Best idea ever. Then it shows photos of a Book of Mormon where portions of the inside had been cut out so they could put the tab in there. And now we will go to the Salt Lake Tribune for an article about signs that showed up at the Salt Lake International Airport. It says, a new sign appearing in various spots around Salt Lake City International Airport asks, what happened to Paxton and Barnes? Alongside the sign's question are photos of two women and a QR code in the style of a missing persons poster. The giveaway is one word, heretic, along with a date, November 8, and a logo for the movie Studio A24. The notice is an ad for Heretic, a horror thriller about two missionaries, Sister Paxton, Chloe East, and Sister Barnes, Sophie Thatcher, who meet Mr. Reed, Hugh Grant, while proselytizing. Reed traps them in his house and challenges them on their religious convictions. A24, the movie's distributor, has scheduled it to open November 8th in theaters nationwide. The advertisement seems to be timed to catch the attention of people who may have been visiting Salt Lake City for last weekend's General Conference of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Reactions to the Heretic poster on social media were mixed. Some saw it as a typical promotion for horror or scary films. They gave it a verbal shrug. One woman said she saw the ad in England and had no idea what it was. Others found it insensitive to real missing persons by using a recognizable format. And last up to date, we will read this quote from Pete Walker's book about complex post-traumatic stress disorder. He said, the repression of the so-called negative polarities of emotion causes much unnecessary pain, as well as the loss of many essential aspects of the feeling nature. In fact, much of the plethora of loneliness, alienation, and addictive distraction that plagues modern industrial societies is a result of people being taught and forced to reject, pathologize, or punish so many of their own and others' normal feeling states. Nowhere, not in the deepest recesses of the self or in the presence of his closest friends, is the average person allowed to have and explore any number of normal emotional states. Anger, depression, envy, sadness, fear, distrust, etc. are all as normal a part of life as bread and flowers and streets, yet they have become ubiquitously avoided and shameful human experiences. How tragic this is, for all of these emotions have enormously important and healthy functions in a wholly integrated psyche. One dimension where this is most true is in the arena of healthy self-protection. For without access to our uncomfortable or painful feelings, we are deprived of the most fundamental part of our ability to notice when something is unfair, abusive, or neglectful in our environments. This is something that is very important and that I started learning on my way out of Mormonism. As a Mormon, I was taught to avoid contention, which meant that some of those feelings he mentions, anger, depression, envy, sadness, fear, distrust, I was taught to repress and avoid. Coming out of the church and learning to feel and process all of my feelings without assigning a negative connotation to any of them has been life-changing. And that's your update for today, folks. I absolutely hope you have the day that you deserve.